So we're to E. And this is the one where I've been saying things like, you can do it in half an hour if you just sit down and write it. And it's the easiest of them and so on. And not that I was being disingenuous, because I wasn't. But this is something that if you just sit down in an evening and you read through the instructions, read through the rubric, and write, you're going to be fine. There's one caveat, though, that I hadn't mentioned, and I'll mention now, and that is that you need to get feedback from your client, but this is way unlike the pulling of teeth that was trying to get those first interviews. This one's easy. You got a product to show them, they like it, they don't like it, they make suggestions and so on. So here we go. In terms of what the IB documentation is saying, it does divide things up into two parts. Evaluation of the product, and I'll talk about how we'll do that. We'll just have a table and we'll go check, 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 no, check, no, check, 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 no. And then the recommendations for the future development of the product, mainly coming from hopefully your client. Look at the 5 to 6. So yeah, there you go. Read through that. That's what you will do. And it won't be that big of a deal as long as you can get a final interview with your client. So let's take a look at my advice and instructions. So it's two parts. One, evaluating it against the success criteria back from Criterion A, and two, the recommendations for further development. Okay, so first part. It would probably take you more time to read through this than it would be to actually do it. Just in summary, what you're going to do is you're going to copy from your Google Doc back in A, where you said your program will do this, it will do that, it will do this, it will do that. You copy and paste it here into a table or something, and you just go check, check, X, check, check, X. Sometimes for the X's you explain why it didn't work, like I just couldn't figure it out, or I decided not to include it, etc. So read through this, and you'll have a criteria for success table. Then the feedback. Then this is the part that does take a little bit of doing, and whether you just show them through NetBeans or you actually go through this distribution, which I'll have to show you. I've shown you probably once, but I'll show you again. You know, the one way or another, you got to get feedback. So I've got some suggested approaches and some suggested questions, but basically what this is saying is, number one, do a table that shows what you've accomplished and what you haven't. Two, get the program to your client and get them to comment on it. Okay, read through this, you'll be fine. But then there is this second part of E. Recommendations for further improvement of the product are realistic. So you have to have recommendations, and you can just have a bulleted list. But the big thing is that they should come from the client. The client should be the one that says, to improve this, I'd really like you to have pictures of this or that. To improve this, I'd really like you to, what else? To have this so that it saves the file, etc., etc. But make them realistic. In fact, you get docked if they're not realistic, so don't come up with these crazy online things that you think you'd never be able to program. This is just one person, two people are taking over your project later on, and they're adding. And really, this is where we go back to D, where you have that to-do list that turned into an extensibility list. You have undone things, right? That's where it's good to have undone things. Those undone things become the recommendations for further improvement. See that? That's a win-win. And you can read through that as well. So again, it's one of these situations where I probably have more words in my instructions than you'll have in your final, or about the same probably in this case. So evaluation is evaluation. And it's something that you could do once you've got, fifth time saying this, but once you've got that last interaction with your client, then you can just sit down and do a good job at this. You should be proud, right? You should be very, very proud at this point as you're doing this evaluation.